Hi everybody, and welcome to our tutorial series we're going to be making about the Statamic CMS system. CMS, if those of you who don't know, content management system, helping you maintain the content on your database. This tutorial series is mainly aimed at people who are creating websites. What makes Statamic interesting is it's one of a new breed of so-called static file content management systems. If you take the behemoths, if you like, the large systems that we know and love and hate, the likes of WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, perhaps slightly less well known but preferable in my terms, something like ProcessWire or Expression Engine. You know, these are big, heavy systems. They use database, MySQL. They're very powerful, but they need a lot of customization. In the case of things like WordPress, they very publicly had huge security problems. People just operating all sorts of bad practices. You know, installing templates, adding everything via a plugin having a security hole, not being updated. Developers having to spend half their working lives editing WordPress installations and making sure people aren't hacking into their sites. It's a bit of a disaster. They sort of represent everything I don't like about web development. If you ask me, it's going on a bit of a rant, but you know, you're basically starting with a big, you know, assumption normally that it's some sort of blog and that you enjoy creating everything via clicking a button to add a plugin. For those of us who prefer to actually try and, you know, design our own things and start from something much simpler and build up a website, so we can start with what we need and what we want, and if we want to add functionality, then we can build it. We can take the best sort of elements of different things and gradually grow something. These new so-called flat file or static site generators are really interesting. You might have heard of one called Jekyll, which is quite a popular static site generator that will just simply create static website files for you, but they don't really give you a great deal of traditional content management options. Something like Statamic is a really nice middle ground. You can pretty much do almost everything you could do in most fully fledged content management systems. It has an admin panel that we can access ourselves or give access to clients. They can log in and change titles, and they can use WYSIWYG editors, and they can upload files, and they can save and everything. But there's so many advantages to having a system which uses just static files. So in a traditional content management system, all the content and the settings of the system are stored in a database, and databases are extremely amazing things. They're very powerful and they're terrifically important to lots of complicated systems, but they're quite a pain to maintain. They can go wrong, and equally, you know, if you're trying to build a site locally on your local machine, and then you're trying to send it up to a live version, and you want to make changes on the live version, and then you want to bring it back to your local version to make changes, you have to take that database and you have to export it and you have to import it again, and it's pretty hard to maintain, to synchronize a database. And one of the huge advantages to using a flat file system, so a system whose content is stored in files, is that it's much easier to take just take a folder with your Statamic website in and to drag it onto your live web root and to watch it just work with no access to having any database at all. Version control, which if you're not using yet, we'll have a sort of an upcoming tutorial series on that as well. You really want to be getting into version control to using GitHub or an equivalent system. Whenever you get into things like that, it's just a real pleasure working with flat files. You can really see all your content in files, you can see all your settings and changes in files, you can work a lot more extensively in your text editor, and it's just very powerful. Statamic's great because it bridges that gap. Like I said, it gives you almost all the power of of a fully fledged CMS. You know, some things maybe a little bit beyond it, but you can allow users access, you can have forms, you can pretty much do everything. You know, if you take 80 or 90% of general websites that you know, so that we build for companies, small to medium-sized companies, you can build them all in it very happily and not be missing out on any functionality, and you can do it all without setting up databases or having anything complicated like that. So in the upcoming videos, I'm just going to go through with you. I'm going to create a sort of a basic Statamic installation. I'm going to go through the folder structure and what all the files do and just how cool it is setting up a site using it.